any other kind.
And it's still good.
You came from Mississippi, right?
I did.
What can you tell us about it?
Well, it was a very poor country. It was during the Depression. And
We've heard that song and dance before.
my parents were very poor. And I never thought I could go to college, but my daddy told me that anybody that wanted to could go to college.
Speak up so you hear me.
And I believed him until I graduated from high school. And then I thought, well, I would like to take a business course. And he was going to borrow the money for me to take a business course. I'd have to go to Memphis, and I was young and very shy, and I never would have succeeded, I'm sure. But the Lord just took that desire away from me. My mother was expecting my baby brother that was going to be born, and she needed me at home that year, and so I just decided I would work at a job and save my money and go to college. And I'm just so thankful that I can look back now and see the Lord's hand in everybody that had an impact on my life. There was never a time when I doubted the Bible, because I had a grandmother that I don't know how much education she had, but I know she never went to college. I think I was the first one in the whole tribe that ever went to college. But she had a great impact on my life. And I had a pastor's wife who she had been in charge of our high school department in the church there. And she said, you ought to go and study Christian Ed. Well, I had no idea what a girl would do with Christian Ed, but I thought, well, maybe someday I could be a pastor's secretary. I think I would like that. I had had shorthand and typing in high school, and I thought, well, that would be good. But then there was no money. And then I thought about, I met some graduates from Bob Jones that came through and spoke at our Young People's Fellowship Club that Dr. Bob Jones Sr. had started with some of the evangelists that had just graduated from Bob Jones. That's when I first heard about Bob Jones. And I went to the Bible conference. Now, if I'd had to go by myself, I would have had to go on a train and change trains in Birmingham. And I was too shy and too scared to go by myself. But there was a couple that were part of the family of one of my best friends, a girl, that were going to Knoxville, and school at Bob Jones was in Cleveland, Tennessee. So they were going to visit some relatives in Knoxville and stay for a week, and it happened to be the week that they had Bible conference. I went to that Bible conference with them. They drove a car and dropped me off and went and visited their relatives, and then came back and brought me back home. And I remember hearing the song, I know whom I have believed, and I'm persuaded that he's able to do all these things. And I came back thinking this was just almost like a visit to heaven. I had never been in such a place. I heard people like Dr. Ironside and people of that era who brought messages. And all of the time that I was in high school, I kept wishing that I could have somebody just teach me the Bible. Well, I had $1.25 that I could spend while I was at this Bible conference, and I bought Dr. Ironside's book, In the Heavenlies. From that day till this, I suppose Ephesians is my favorite book. And when Ed and I were dating, we memorized the book of Ephesians. And it just, the Lord just moved bit by bit. I came back from Bible conference and I thought, I had spent most of my money to help my parents because we were so poor. And I thought, I'll just save every penny I can. I saved $325. And that $325, I started to college at Bob Jones. And because I was there, and because Ed was there, we sat at the same table, and he was the host and I was the hostess, and that's where we first got acquainted. And the rest is history. And I just praise the Lord that He is in control of our lives, and no matter how much we plan and how much we desire, it's all up to the Lord to make it all come to pass, whatever He wants to do in our lives. And when I was a young person, about 10 years old, I used to go up to my grandpa's cotton patch, and I had a big 100-pound empty gunny sack with a string around it on my neck, and I went down these long rows and back down and picked cotton with these little black, we called them pickaninnies. They were little black children about my age. And at the end of that trip down and back, we would empty these sacks into a big wagon so that they could pull it off and take the cotton to the gin. And I just loved those little people. My grandmother, in her older years, needed somebody to come and help take care of her, and she had a lady that came and tidied up the house and did the noon meal, and cleaned up the dishes, did the ironing with an old iron that you put on the stove to get hot. And that's the way I learned to iron. We had electricity, but my mother didn't trust me to use the electric iron for a long time, and so I learned to iron with one of those little irons. But we loved Carrie, that was her name, Carrie, that took care of my grandmother. And we had no feelings against them. I mean, we worked hard and they worked hard, and people used to think that we mistreated them. But everybody had to work hard to get enough money. I can remember when our grocery bill couldn't go more than $7 a week, and there were 7 of us children. And so times were hard, but I can look back now and say I'm thankful that we were poor, because I had a partial scholarship to go to another college, and there just wasn't any money anywhere to put with that scholarship that I could go. And so the Lord just changed my desires and had me in the right place for all that He wanted to do. And I've been able to be secretary to a pastor, wife to a pastor, the whole thing, an evangelist, and I've had opportunities to go to many places in the world and to see mission fields and to spend some time on mission fields. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful life, and it's not over yet.
We're going to sing.